review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wayne Take the Mic.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Review of Raw. I'm John Pollock along with Wei Ting. We are going to get into Raw. Monday night, the final Raw before this weekend's Money in the Bank show, with Raw taking place from New Orleans, Louisiana, the funly named Smoothie King Center.
Smoothie King, my favorite. Before we do that, don't we have a contest?
We do have a contest going on where if you are listening to this show, at some point, we are going to drop the secret word. What you're going to do is you're going to have to make note of that word, and then you're going to have to listen to Review Away for the second secret word. And then you're going to have to send a direct message to Wei Ting on the Law message boards with those two words, and the first three to do that will be winners, or however many number Wei is willing to give away.
Winners of?
The Eric Bischoff, sports entertainment's most controversial figure, and WWE Payback DVDs will be yours, both of them.
So just send me on lawradio.poorboards.com the two secret words, one of which I will reveal on this particular podcast, and the other you'll have to download on Review Away on Wednesday.
Yes. So two secret words. You don't know when they're coming, but they are your keys to those DVDs. Wade, do you want to know anything about these DVDs? Are you not familiar with it?
Tell me.
Well, Way, grudges are settled in new rivalries born at WWE Payback. Available now on DVD as the phenomenal AJ Styles takes on WWE Champion Roman Reigns in a no DQ match. It's a battle of the bloodlines as Women's Champion Charlotte, accompanied by Ric Flair, takes on Natalya, escorted by her uncle Bret Hart. Pick it up on DVD today. And Eric Bischoff is responsible for some of the most revolutionary moments in sports entertainment history. From creating the NWO to battling the WWE during the Monday Night Wars, Way you can relive all of Eric Bischoff's greatest moments and hear from the man himself in the new release, Eric Bischoff, sports entertainment's most controversial figure, available now on DVD and Blu-ray.
Oh, you just come up with that off the top of your head?
You know, it's just on my mind all day long.
We're actually reviewing this one on Review Away on Wednesday.
You'll get a thorough review of the Eric Bischoff DVD, and you can go back and download The Law for a full review of Payback as well.
There you go.
So now it's time to get into Monday's edition of Raw from the aforementioned Smoothie King Center. And they started this show off the same way that TNA started off their pay-per-view on Sunday, with the entire roster, everybody out on the ramp for a moment of silence for the tragedy that happened late Saturday, early Sunday in Orlando. And, obviously a fitting tribute to start the show off with. And then we got into the actual show with the New Day coming out. And the focus of this was Kofi Kingston's shoes.
Yeah.
His Under Armour shoes.
He had these white shoes that were different from the others.
Low twos. He said they were Steph Curry low twos. And
Gotcha. Big
E and Xavier were mocking him for wearing old people's shoes that may have had orthotics in them.
Ooh.
Are orthotics comfortable, Way?
I love orthotics.
I don't think that's a sign of old. I think that's a sign of wise. Kofi Kingston.
Whatever.
So this became the big focus of this segment. Cass and Enzo came out. There was a big "How you doing" chant by the crowd, and they said they're going all in Las Vegas and taking the tag titles. And they like the New Day. They like the unicorns, their cereal, and their massagers for her pleasure, in reference to the unicorn horns that they're wearing above, I guess, believing they double as vibrators. And then referred to Kofi's Jerry Seinfeld shoes. And then Xavier said that they are "I have a Bass Pro Shop membership lows." This just went on and on. Cass then asks to Xavier where your girl was last night, in reference to Francesca 2, and said that she was with Enzo, and Enzo had his lips all over her. And Enzo said that Franny is no saint, and says he gets very upset here, Xavier does, telling Enzo, "I'm the only one who blows my girl." They went a lot further with this than I thought they would.
No, and
This was a straight-up BJ promo.
Pretty much, yeah. Very juvenile on paper, but I think these two teams pull it off really well. And, for a double babyface segment, I thought this was really good for the two of them.
They then set up a verbal joust of wits between Xavier and Enzo. And this time the Vaudevillains, I guess the Vaudevillains, they just interrupt whenever something is going to happen, like Stephanie about to dance or a verbal joust of wits. Though I feel people were more excited to actually see this. So there was actual heat when the Vaudevillains interrupted this. And Aiden English sings about winning the tag titles, and he held that E for a significant amount of time in WWE until Gallows and Anderson came out. And Carl asked if this is Camp WWE's annual talent show as they went back and forth to set up a tag match. You know, I know that it is a directive to try and work in the WWE network shows, but they do it so much in these shows. It's very difficult to just take these promos at times where we've got to work in all these. Am I being swerved? Are we going to be on an episode of Ride Along? Is this the talent show at Camp WWE? Like, I guess is it really promotion? I don't know, but nonetheless, I'm nitpicking.
No. I thought it was a good opening segment that showed each team's personality. You have, the two kind of joking around tag teams that are very over with the crowd in Enzo and Cass and the New Day. You have the Vaudevillains who are able to now show some personality themselves. And you have Gallows and Anderson who are pretty much the straight-up serious ones that don't do any of the joking. They hate fun. So they're here to put an end to that.
Give Gallows a few months.
Sure. But I think each team's identity is, starting to become a lot more established now. And I think if you look at, where the tag teams were prior to WrestleMania, these three other teams didn't even exist. So I think they've done a good job.
So we had Kofi Kingston, Big E, Big Cass, and Enzo taking on Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and the Vaudevillains. They bring up Paul London and Brian Kendrick's tag title reign of 331 days with the New Day at 296. This is the official record because we take over, like their lineage is, they unified the two sets of tag titles. So the tag titles that go back to the early 70s is not considered part of their history now. Because
what was the record for that?
I believe it would be Demolition, who had
more than this.
Well over a year. Huh. So that record is not the record anymore. It's London and Kendrick's record. That is the one of note that they are within striking distance of.
Yeah.
They got the heat on Enzo in the heels corner, and he was avoiding being pulled to the floor, dove to tagging Cass, who hit a fallaway slam. They brought up how he lost it last week. Snapped.
Yeah.
There was a splash in the corner. Some big spots for Cass. Then Kingston did a somersault tope over the corner post of the Vaudevillains on the floor. Almost too big a spot for just this random 8-man tag. I think this could have been saved for Sunday. That was a big spot from Kofi. Gallows then hit a clothesline from the apron to Big E, who is beaten down in the corner. Gallows misses a splash, tags Kofi and Anderson, who are both in. There was a reverse cross. Gotch made the save, and then Cass sends a big boot, putting Gotch on the floor. English then sends Cass to the floor. Big E hit a belly-to-belly. And then Gallows dropped Big E on the floor with a big boot, made the blind tag, came in, and they hit the magic killer to Kofi Kingston, and Gallows got the pinfall. I thought Carl Anderson in particular looked really good in this match. I think that there's definitely a singles run well down the road for this guy at some point as well. This was a fun 8-man tag.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Making Gallows and Anderson look strong, I think, is the right choice. They're the team with the most upside of them all. However, I think the New Day will probably retain because they probably want to let them have that record.
Well, they're pushing that record, so it would certainly make sense to keep the titles on them while that is a storyline they've introduced. Each and every week, it's your chance to win a t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. Simply answer the trivia question and tweet @LawRadio for your chance to win each and every Thursday. They showed the Darren Young, Bob Backlund spot. Same as always, this aired on SmackDown. They replayed it on Raw, and they talked about teaching Darren how to celebrate and saving money, and we learned that Bob Backlund only owns one pair of clothes. Stephanie is on her phone in the office. If you missed Shane last week, well, there was plenty of Shane this week. There was also plenty of Stephanie. I lost count of the amount of segments they were in. Shane came in and says that he had a personal reason for not being at Raw last week when Stephanie said he was on vacation. Also noted, calling his shot that in a couple of weeks, he's also going to miss an upcoming episode of Raw due to personal reasons. That's strange.
Do we know what the reasons actually are?
That was it was a very innocuous line that was thrown in there. Stephanie says she wants to run both Raw and SmackDown, and Shane says that her and Hunter ran the shows into the ground and said that this is a case of SOS. Same old Steph. And Stephanie says it's same old Shane. So then Kane enters, and he has a resume because he wants to run SmackDown, and he's got a letter of recommendation from The Undertaker. And we had the Big Red Machine with the medium-sized orange machine, Shane McMahon, with his tan, which may or may not have been the result of a vacation or putting himself in a microwave. He was very tanned here. Zack Ryder is backstage with just random assortment of folks who were never identified, and he was talking about Apollo Crews attacking Sheamus on SmackDown and laughing about it. Sheamus shows up and says he'll be the one laughing at the end of this after he punches Ryder later tonight in their match. And he also notes he has a match with Apollo Crews at Money in the Bank. Ryder pretends that Apollo is behind Sheamus, and it scares Sheamus, so the bully is now frightened by Apollo Crews. The Shield are going to be having a reunion tonight on the Ambrose Asylum, as was promoted last week, and they showed various Shield clips throughout the night, including when they attacked Evolution the night after WrestleMania 30 in this very building. Lots of history in the Smoothie King Arena. It was a slippery slope for the Shield after that night. Shining Stars promo, where they discussed walking the beaches of Puerto Rico and how on their beaches they don't pollute it with oil spills, littering, or cigarette butts. So after that one match, those Shining Stars, they're certainly showing a darker side.
Yeah, so these guys are obviously traveling. I mean, I don't know if they're working dark matches or not, but they're doing all these now in front of a green screen. And you figure that, you know, they could use this kind of on-screen break to kind of retool their characters and kind of try to find a part of their gimmick that might click with the crowd. But it's just the same stuff they've been doing even prior to this. So I think when they finally do return, I don't think the reaction will be that much different.
2 months from now, who will have a match first, the Shining Stars or Darren Young?
2 months from now? Darren Young?
Or will we still be in...
I think the Shining Stars.
All right.
Darren Young probably has a ways to go. Brock Lesnar will probably have a match before either.
Oh, it definitely will. Definitely have a fight in that time. Maybe a match too. Titus O'Neil comes out, and he's immediately jumped from behind by Rusev and driven into the stage and the ramp. Rusev attacks the ribs, so theoretically, we should have a story for their match at the pay-per-view with Titus selling his ribs. Theoretically. But we know how attacks work, especially when you're adding 6 days from attack to match. And then applied the accolade on the ramp as the officials tried to break them up.
So Swagger's not a part of this?
No, he's not. It's a singles match. They showed a clip of Seth Rollins when he attacked Ambrose and Reigns and broke up the Shield in 2014. And we got a tweet from Triple H congratulating the Pittsburgh Penguins and the HBK line, the Stanley Cup champions. Hour 2 kicked off with the Ambrose Asylum segment, which was brought back by popular demand. And I thought they weren't going to address it, but they actually did give a storyline reason for why the canceled segment was back. He says that Money in the Bank feels like another WrestleMania with 2 matches that could main event WrestleMania. And then he brings out the, quote, scum of the earth, Seth Rollins, followed by Roman Reigns, who was audibly booed by this New Orleans crowd as he came out. And Ambrose asks Rollins about how his knee is doing. Rollins brings up the 24 special and says that it's 100%, or could have told Dean Ambrose to pay attention to the live events. Reigns talks about the Big Easy treating him good and even dropped down Bourbon Street for the Easy Pop, which got no response. It wasn't even a pro-Rollins crowd. It was just an anti-Reigns crowd. Like, they seemed indifferent to Rollins largely, but Reigns, they were just having no part of when this man would speak. And it made for Ambrose having to carry most of this with Rollins. There was a party pooper chant when Rollins was accused of being such. Rollins goes over all their memories, including WrestleMania 30 at the Superdome across the street, riding on a helicopter together, finding Ambrose unconscious at a dumpster in Albuquerque, and says the best times were their legendary 6-man tags, sending Batista packing. But Rollins says the best of all of them was attacking them with a chair and then cashing in his Money in the Bank contract to rob Roman Reigns of the WWE title at WrestleMania 31. Rollins says that he carried the company on his back, that Reigns beat Ambrose at the Survivor Series and then beat Triple H. He earned the title, but he never beat Rollins, and says that he held his hand all those years, and the only reason that Reigns won the title was because Rollins was hurt. Ambrose brings up the fact that all these guys like J&J Security and Kane were helping him along the way, and Reigns says that Rollins broke up a brotherhood, and they were the only ones who had his back. Ambrose asks who is going to win, and then he throws out the suggestion that maybe he's going to win the Money in the Bank contract and cash it in that night. And before they end the segment, they got into a big brawl with Rollins jumping Ambrose. Then he knocks him into Reigns. Reigns comes back with a Superman punch to Rollins, and it ends with Ambrose hitting the dirty deeds to Reigns and leaving him laying.
Yeah, I thought Rollins was really good here, very intense in his promo, and I thought gave good motivations in how he thinks he's still the champion. I thought Reigns had a good retort as well. It was short, but he sounded good. But I thought the main focus of this segment ultimately became Dean Ambrose and how he really could be the one to win the Money in the Bank so that you could set up a three-way between the three of these guys. To me, it always seemed like Kevin Owens was the favorite, but after teasing a segment like this, I think it'll make the fans believe that he has a real chance, so all his close calls during the match will mean that much more. Yeah,
I think coming out of this show, you were really given the emphasis was placed the most on Dean Ambrose on this show to try and get him into that, at least people logically believing that there's a number of guys that could win this, and there are. Catch all of our podcasts daily up at FightNetwork.com. You can also subscribe to Live Audio Wrestling on iTunes and listen through the free Stitcher app. Ambrose is backstage after the segment, and Stephanie approaches him and is upset that he was not modest enough on his talk show and therefore has made a singles match with him against Chris Jericho for tonight. And Stephanie says that hatred can be a good thing. You just need to know how to use it. Natalya and Becky Lynch were on commentary, and we have the tag match at Money in the Bank against Charlotte and Dana Brooke. And it was the return of Paige here with a non-title match against Charlotte. They note that this is the building where Paige made her main roster debut on that night after WrestleMania in 2014. There was a running knee to the face of Charlotte, and then Paige stopped a figure eight attempt. Natalya plugged the Instagram account of Two Paws.
Yeah, I thought Natalya took a bit too much attention away from the feud and from the match, plugging her cat's Instagram.
Two Paws.
It was too much.
Charlotte got knocked to the floor right in front of them, and then Dana threw Charlotte back into the ring, right into a super kick from Paige, and then Paige hit the Rampage and got the pinfall at 2:28, and Charlotte was angry at Dana. She's annoyed at her, but as they leave, she holds up the title saying she is still the champion. Paige has nothing to do with this match. The idea was, is Charlotte going to be able to succeed without Ric Flair and going into this tag match?
And with a handicap now in Dana, who is actually causing her matches.
Yes, if Dana... Yes, they're pushing the idea that eventually Charlotte is going to end up turning on Dana, and Dana's already causing her problems.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's the story they wanted to tell, but I wouldn't have made your champion lose just to tell this story.
To someone that's not even involved in the match.
Have her cause a DQ or something, I thought the finish really made Charlotte look weak.
Or one on commentary and one in the match. I mean, it's Paige is not even any kind of a player on this show on Sunday. Renee was with Cesaro, who's got a match with Sami Zayn tonight, and Zayn just pops up and says that since we're talking about a match he's involved with, and they're both in Money in the Bank, he's just going to stand here in case he needs to respond. And Cesaro says Zayn is acting like a child, walking in here like he owns the place. Zayn says he is not a kid, they are equals. And then Cesaro says he's been here for 4 years, Zayn's been here for 4 months, and when you come here, you start all over again. And then Cesaro says to Zayn that he still has a lot to prove and he should start tonight. Charlotte and Dana are backstage, Dana says that she was just trying to help. Charlotte yells at her and says that Dana fails up. She failed with Emma to take over the tag division in their 2 weeks together and then became her protege. And there is no room for failure. And if what happens tonight happens at Money in the Bank, then Dana will not be part of the history books with Charlotte. And they have a lot to work on before Sunday. I'll say. Zack Ryder took on Sheamus. Sheamus and Apollo will be part of the kickoff portion of Money in the Bank. Big culmination to that one. Ryder hit the broski boot, followed with another one, and then the elbow drop off the top for a 2 count. Sheamus then pressed him into the air onto the turnbuckle and hit a bro kick, pinning Ryder in 1:55. And then he went to attack Ryder further after the match when Apollo ran in for the save, drove Sheamus out of the ring to the floor, and continues the attack on the floor, and it ends up with Sheamus running away into the crowd away. The bully has been scared off by the guy fighting back.
To me, the crowd reaction to Cruz's run-in was a little lukewarm, and I know that this was actually very effective earlier in the show with what's his name, Rusev coming in and attacking Titus on the ramp, showing a lot of intensity, a lot of fire. Cruz had that intensity, but I didn't feel like the Revenge was really set up or earned. They didn't really establish Cruz's relationship with Ryder here, so I didn't really buy him coming out all angry to save a guy who he doesn't really seem to know, or at least that relationship just hasn't been established on TV.
Then we got a ad involving Titus O'Neil, where it looks like he's setting up for a party at his home. I thought this was like going to be a vignette, like behind the scenes of his 60-day suspension, but it was an ad for, I guess, Father's Day, where he's playing Go Fish with his kids.
Yeah, he's the spokesperson for this fatherhood organization.
Well, it's a big weekend coming up.
Yeah.
So I guess Titus has to win on Sunday. He's got to win on Father's Day, right?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, boy.
No, so.
Maybe they'll have his kids ringside, and Rusev will put the accolade on their father right in front of the kids.
Wow.
Happy Father's Day. Kevin Owens walks up to Kane and Shane in the office, and he wants to talk to Stephanie, and then says that he doesn't like talking behind people's back, but Alberto Del Rio just showed up 20 minutes ago. He thinks that's really unprofessional, and Alberto should be out of the ladder match on Sunday. His delivery was great here. Mm-hmm. This guy is just a great character. And Del Rio then fuming shows up, and being that it's Alberto Del Rio, the man must travel in his trunks because he was all dressed and ready to go in these 20 minutes, and he's pissed, and he accuses Kevin Owens of calling airport security on him. This was very much in the style of the Freebirds and Austin Idol with the slashed tires here, but instead this was calling airport security on the other and delaying him for 5 hours. What could he have possibly told airport security? Like this guy was traveling with heroin in his bag? Get the sniffing dogs out? To delay someone for 5 hours.
That's a long time.
Maybe he was taking a camera across the border and he was flagged because he didn't have a carnet.
It's happened to me, yes.
It has happened.
Not for 5 hours.
It has happened to us, and only one of us was the one that was delayed while they let the other one go.
Oh, is that right? I don't remember.
Remember that?
Nope.
They told me, do not take out your phone. Do not interact with anyone. You sit there. It's like, this is nuts. You let the guy with the camera go through, and I'm going to stay here.
TSA.
The worst.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get delayed 5 hours. They yell in Spanish and French at one another, and then Kane suggests a tag match tonight with the Lucha Dragons, and if the Lucha Dragons win, they will take the spots of Owens and Del Rio in the ladder match, and Shane thinks this is a great idea, and he approves of it. Shane and Kane are best friends now, and I had this great rant here about these two being best friends, and then they called it out later in the show. They called out a 13-year-old storyline.
Yeah.
They were on the ball for a number of things on this show, from the Ambrose Asylum cancellation explanation to Shane and Kane getting along after all these years.
They knew that you were probably going to...
Some details were being... I mean, typically they just, screw it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, this is a Pollock-proof edition of Raw.
They were dotting those I's and crossing some T's on Monday. You can check out The Law's YouTube channel at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Subscribe for all of your free videos, including Ask Away, interviews, and much more. Sami Zayn took on Cesaro. They brought up their history in NXT. The great thing with Cesaro is you can always tell, like this guy, I get the sense, when he is not working, he is watching wrestling all over the world. Yeah. And you can see the little influences. And right off the top, he's doing the multiple kip-ups that Will Ospreay does. And Zayn went for a springboard right into a Cesaro uppercut as they went to a break. Cesaro was hitting the various uppercuts in the corner. There was a double foot stomp for a 2 count. Then Zayn climbed up the turnbuckle and got hit with a drop kick and then a deadlift vertical by Cesaro for a 2 count. An uppercut is countered with a backslide for a 2 count. And then Cesaro hoists up Zayn almost like he's going for a power bomb, and Zayn flips over and into a code red and pins Cesaro. And afterwards, they had a stare down with the briefcase hanging above the two, and a clean win here for Sami Zayn.
Yeah, well, he lost last week, so winning this week, I think it's just, even booking until the actual match. Again, I don't think it really has that much effect on the Money in the Bank itself, but, it's just to make all these guys look good. That finish certainly looked great, and, it's not a finish he could do every single week. I mean, it takes a guy like Cesaro to be able to take a move like that. I think Zayn's chances of winning are low, mainly because he's a babyface, but I expect the crowd to be really into his close calls.
Then, maybe your highlight way.
Oh, yeah.
We got the spot for DeVry University, which was an...
DeVry University, come on.
Yes. Is this the same DeVry that we're serious about success?
Of course it is.
It was not...
It's a technical institute.
But it was never... it wasn't classified as a university, as I recall, when their ads were just all over the place.
It's DeVry Technical Institute.
Well, now it's a university. They've upgraded. They've Ryerson up.
Ryerson did the same thing, so I can't say I graduated from a school that was that much better than DeVry.
Well, we learned a lot here about WWE production in this ad.
This is my highlight of the show.
They are IP-based. All their events are recorded onto hard drives. They've gone green, and they are grid-based. Did you learn anything in this minute?
The IB-based thing, was pretty interesting. The fact that they could control their cameras in their studio from any part, it sounds like, anywhere, probably even from
Kevin Dunn's on a beach directing Raw.
Sure, yeah. But I hope they do more of these, because to me these are by far the best use of a sponsored segment perhaps ever. It's certainly better than whatever Subway ad that they tried to integrate. This was actually educational, and at least for a broadcasting nerd like me, I got something out of it. So I'm sure there are lots of other people that are interested in the behind the scenes aspects of these shows, because WWE, for all you could say about them, their production really is world class.
Oh yes.
I mean, and I'm not just talking about pro wrestling. I'm talking about sports. I'm talking about television in general. They're really up there.
I thought this was a great little 1 minute spot. I want to see more of this. This would be a great little network thing. Yeah. Producing Raw.
Yeah.
Be really interesting. Final hour. Michael Cole's in the ring for the contract signing for our, quote, WrestleMania main event. It's WrestleMania main event quality. We have 2 WrestleMania quality main events, and it's going to be the greatest Money in the Bank card of all time. So a lot of lofty labels they have placed upon this Sunday show.
I think it's a worthy claim. It really is.
These 3 matches are going to be excellent. All 3 of them are going to be great. Yeah. He says this is 15 years in the making. I'm going to continue to nitpick here. Why 15 years, okay? AJ Styles began his career in 98. Cena in 99, I believe. Okay. I don't know what is 15 years in the making. Why they settled on that? Is that just...
When did they make their... when did Cena debut? 2002?
He was called up to the roster in 02.
So that'd be 14.
I'm guessing Styles, the last time he had a dark match in WWF would have been 2001, which was 15 years ago. That's the closest I can get to why... Or maybe just 15 is a close enough number.
No, it's a nicer sounding number.
It's better than... It's
14.
18 years in the making.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've settled on 15, but it's just they pick a number and then they say it to death.
Maybe they met each other 15 years ago.
Maybe they met at an airport. Right when R-Truth and Cena had their skirmish at the airport, AJ, hey, John.
Yeah.
He says that this might as well be... Cena's out. he says this might as well be WrestleMania, and it is a match that people have wanted all these years. They thought they would never see it, and people have been asking about this match for 15 years, asking, what if?
Yeah, in 2001.
Do you remember, Way? In 2005, when we were, this three-way with Joe and Daniels is great, but what if? What if AJ went to Raw?
Well, I mean, 2005. For a long time, like, Cena's been sort of the face of the company. I don't know if I've ever been dreaming about it, but I'm sure there's some fan out there who wanted to see this.
This is a big match.
Absolutely.
It's a big first-time match, 100%. We just like to be dicks a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. He says that the WWE is the pinnacle of sports entertainment, and that the decision makers told AJ year after year he was not welcome here. He mentions that no matter where you go, PWG, New Japan, Ring of Honor, the name synonymous with excellence is AJ Styles. The three promotions that are synonymous with AJ Styles, PWG, New Japan, and Ring of Honor.
The only ones that really exist. I mean, AJ, I'm sure he's not worked for any other company besides these three.
Exactly. Yeah. So Styles, he says that Styles has won more than 15 championships, which are the amount that Cena has won. Mm-hmm. And if you're technically talking world titles, he really hasn't. And Cena's won.
Can you count the actual championships?
Well, he hasn't won 15. He won two IWGP titles. Yeah. And I don't think he had 13 TNA title reigns.
Probably not.
I think he
never won the ROH, did he?
No, never won the ROH title.
Well, maybe if you...
But he's synonymous with ROH.
If you count all the indies, every indie he's worked for, he must have won.
Yeah, I'm sure. NWA Wildside, if we had them all up. He says they are two guys that walk around without titles but can be called champ. And then AJ comes out, and the fans are chanting for him. He says he's going to run circles around Cena, and Cena has 2 contracts written and presented. One of them is for a straight singles match with just the two of them where they will answer that question, what if? And the other one is John Cena against the Club. And he says, I will fight my heart out and I will lose to you three. And AJ will be the captain of the Bitch Club. And says that the one-on-one match will bring back the electricity they had 2 weeks ago as he tried to get the chant going from 2 weeks ago. And then they can truly answer the what if question. And then Styles says that if he had come here 15 years ago, John Cena would not have won all those titles, all those Rumbles, been in his crappy movies and had magazine covers. The truth being, if AJ had come here in 2001, I think he would have been gone by 2003. In all honesty, at that time. He is coming at probably a good time for him. He says that the powers that be kept him out of the WWE, that and a binding contract. And Cena says that he is just like every entitled indie dude that cried about what they were owed and needs to man up and do it on his own now that the chance is presenting itself, and that AJ will bury himself and he'll be put on a bullet train back to Japan where he left his balls. And that prompts AJ to sign the one-on-one contract. And Styles ends by saying he isn't just any other independent guy and will beat his Kmart shopping ass. Your time is up, and my time is now. Very good segment involving these two, I thought. I think that as we look at this and the fact that I think everyone expects this to go multiple months, I really feel for this first match, they could have held off the heel turn till after match 1. Because I think these two are going to be treated as baby faces on Sunday. If not, AJ will be the baby face to the crowd. And I think that you could have got through that first match of the two in a dream match scenario with the two baby faces. If you're going to go July and August, which I think they probably will. But
you could have. That's what they did with Roman, pretty much.
Yes.
AJ Roman feud. But I thought the segment on its own was just great. I thought Styles is just showing a great deal of confidence and charisma that was not nearly as apparent when he was a babyface. I thought this was also Cena at his best. He seemed like he understood and probably heard the criticism from last week that he was...
there was nothing about the choke artist and the bust.
No, I think he went a little too strong last week, and I think a lot of people thought that. And I think Cena this week was trying to undo last week's damage by really putting over Styles and his accomplishments. and it made for a much more balanced segment and a much better segment overall.
And they tried to shift it towards, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but they shifted it to that it was the WWE that was somewhat closed-minded to this guy. And
not the fact that he's not good enough.
Yeah.
And I thought it was well written. I love the ultimatum between the two contracts. I thought it was a clever way to force the clean matchup. Definitely one of the better contract signings that I think they've done. And then it didn't even end in a brawl.
No, it didn't. Coming up this Wednesday on Review Away, Wei Ting and I will be reviewing the brand new Eric Bischoff DVD that the WWE has released, and we'll hear comments from a 2006 Law interview with Bischoff and lots more coming up on this Wednesday's Review Away, and your chance to win a copy of the DVD. They showed highlights of Randy Orton winning the Money in the Bank in 2013 and then cashing in on Daniel Bryan. And then we went to Alberto Del Rio and Kevin Owens against the Lucha Dragons with the 2 spots up for grabs in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Owens pretends to walk out early and then runs back. He's constantly arguing with Alberto. The Dragons had a double drop kick and suicide dives to the floor, and then they got the advantage. Kalisto hit the Salida del Sol de Del Rio, and then he rolled to the floor. Owens tossed him back into the ring because if they got counted out, they would lose. Kalisto then tags Sin Cara, who hits a swanton. Owens makes the save. They had a good story here where Owens and Del Rio they don't like one another, but they have to work with one another to win this match. Sin Cara hit Owens with a pair of spots off the ropes. Kalisto then went for a suicide dive and was driven into the barricade upon landing by Del Rio. We got a roll-up by Sin Cara for a 2 count on Owens, who then hit the pop-up powerbomb and pinned Sin Cara. And then immediately after the pinfall, Del Rio super kicked Owens.
Yeah, again, a good match. And just like Zayn winning, Owens lost last week, so he gets the pin this week.
As promised, The Miz checked in from the set of the Marine 5. And he promises to work as hard as possible on this set, and complains about his coffee being cold to a PA. So I'm glad that we did get this time with The Miz for an update.
Not much here.
Owens is with Stephanie in the back, and he calls tonight crap. He says he did all the work in the tag match, and his spot should have never been in jeopardy, and Stephanie is agreeing with everything he's saying. Owens then says that Zayn is going to be on commentary in the main event, and Shane approved it, and he wants to be on commentary too. So Stephanie agrees. So we've got 2 commentators for the main event. And then Del Rio walks in, and Del Rio is appointed timekeeper for tonight to get all of our ladder match participants involved in this main event.
They're splitting all the heels and baby faces with either Steph or Shane. So Steph is definitely more leading towards the heel side. I'd say pretty, obviously.
And they didn't treat last week as if it was just in a vacuum. I mean, Stephanie was clearly the heel here, and they have ditched kind of the fake babyface portrayal of her, which seems like just a cold switch, because they were there were few even hints at that point that they were going to run that out longer, and it seemed that they just wanted that heel-face dynamic between the two. Yeah. So Shane and Stephanie are then in their office for yet another segment. Shane brings up the fact that he brought back the Ambrose Asylum, and Stephanie notes it was without her knowledge. So that is why the segment was brought back. Shane announces that Cesaro will be the guest ring announcer to complete the 6 having a role in the main event. Stephanie then discusses Kane as being psychotic and the worst choice to run SmackDown. Shane says how he's been buddying up to Shane of late. Kane walks in, and they state that they need someone with stability, and he's not going to get the SmackDown job. He goes to walk out, and then he looks at Shane and says, "Is this about the car battery to the testicles thing?" And Shane says, "No, but that didn't help your case." I thought that a very funny callback, if you can remember, because that line was 13 years in the making, way, almost as long as our match on Sunday. Shane says that they will continue to run Raw, but he is going to run SmackDown, and walks off.
Yeah, so he seems to be positioning SmackDown as the prize, and I imagine the two of them will be trying to get SmackDown by themselves. He also said, though, he would continue co-managing Raw with Steph.
Yes. I feel that next Monday we're going to start to really pick up the focus on the draft. I mean, they haven't even announced the date yet for it. I think you want to get through this pay-per-view cycle because then the focus because the draft and the split will happen before the July pay-per-view. This Sunday night on Live Audio Wrestling, we will be live immediately after the WWE Money in the Bank show with a full rundown of the card happening at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen live at TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 1410 Vancouver, and live at liveaudiowrestling.com. Owens and Zayn are on commentary. Del Rio is the timekeeper, and Cesaro is in the ring to do announcing. And he introduces Jericho from Winnipeg, Manitoba, but now residing in stupid Idiotville. And Owens called Cesaro the worst ring announcer in history. I won't say he was the worst.
No.
But
he did a pretty good job.
I don't know about that.
I mean, compared to some of the, did a fine job.
So our main event was Chris Jericho taking on Dean Ambrose. Ambrose hit they also announced a six-man for SmackDown. Zayn, Ambrose, and Cesaro against Jericho, Owens, and Del Rio. Listen, we got a lot of talent in this ladder match. These combinations are exhausted at this point. This has been every week. It's just whatever manipulation of these six.
There's just too much TV time.
Well, that's definitely an issue. And Jericho will be on ESPN on Tuesday night. Owens is mocking Zayn constantly here. There was a part where Zayn messed up saying world-class athletes. And he had a Heath moment. And Owens just annihilated him on commentary here. I mean, it was really very one-sided.
He's very funny, but he definitely overshadowed everybody.
Yeah, to the detriment of Zayn, I felt here. Mm-hmm. Jericho went for the walls. Ambrose made it to the rope. Then Ambrose went for the walls and then sent Jericho into the ropes. Jericho then came off the top, avoided the dirty deeds, and they had a transition here. Slingshot clothesline was stopped with a codebreaker attempt. Ambrose blocked the codebreaker and hit the dirty deeds and pinned Jericho. Can't really complain about, run-ins, distraction finishes. I mean, you got a lot of clean finishes on this show.
Yeah, they're all clean finishes because everybody gets a win. Maybe save for Jericho. Did he win last week? I don't know.
Well, he got the glory spot here at the end.
Right, yes. So everybody is made to look strong, and I think the match itself should be really good. I can't really recall a better roster for a Money in the Bank match. I think the six of these guys are all excellent.
So everyone gets involved in the post-match. Owens attacked Ambrose from behind. Zayn was in to attack Owens. Del Rio was in, hit a backstabber to Zayn. Cesaro hit a spinning uppercut off the rope in a suit, no less.
Yeah.
Shades of Loki here. Ambrose then hit a baseball slide drop kick to a ladder into Owens, and they all fight ringside. Zayn climbs to the top and hits a swanton to the floor, hitting everyone with the exception of Jericho, who is the only one standing. And he climbs into the ring with the ladder, sets it up, climbs up, takes the briefcase, and then sits down cross-legged on top of the ladder to continue his meme game. And that was the end of Raw.
Yep.
I think that there are three big matches on Sunday. That's got the focus, and then there's everything else on the card. And I thought they did a pretty good job, in particular, Cena Styles. I think that's going to be excellent. I think Reigns and Rollins is going to be really good, and I think the ladder match is going to be really good. It's hard not to look forward to those three matches on Sunday, and I think this show they focused on those three, and there wasn't a whole ton focused on the rest of the card, and I don't think that was a bad call.
You don't need to focus on much else. I think they've announced two of the pre-show matches, but 6 matches on the main card.
What's the second pre-show match?
Cruz and Sheamus.
And I thought that was the only one.
Ziggler and Corbin.
Oh, that's on the pre-show as well.
I believe so.
I'm going to pull up the card here.
On that. But, 3 out of 6.
Yeah, you're correct.
3 out of 6 is pretty good. So I'm definitely looking forward to Money in the Bank.
Okay, so Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin is on the pre-show, as is Apollo Crews and Sheamus. Mm-hmm. Charlotte and Dana Brooke against Natalya and Becky Lynch. Rusev against Titus O'Neil. The New Day against Gallows and Anderson. Enzo and Big Cass and the Vaudevillains for the tag titles. John Cena against AJ Styles. Your prediction, Mr. Ting?
I think if they're going to continue this feud, I think AJ has to win the first one.
I agree. I think he has to win this one.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he will, but he should. Mm-hmm. Zayn, Cesaro, Chris Jericho, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, and Alberto Del Rio.
This is the toughest one, and I wouldn't put it past them to have somebody win here and maybe even lose a briefcase at some point because you have a number of very good, viable contenders here. I still think it'll be Kevin Owens.
And then Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins for the WWE title.
I think it'll be Reigns.
I think Reigns.
Yeah.
I think it will be Reigns as well, but to progress this feud, there is an argument to switch the title and continue the story that Reigns cannot beat Rollins.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I just don't see them dropping the title.
No, probably not. But I think between Cena and Styles and Reigns and Rollins, those are programs you expect to continue.
Yeah.
I do feel you'll get the clean finish in Cena Styles, and Reigns and Rollins, maybe not.
Yeah.
And there could be an argument you put Cena and Styles on last then, if that is the case.
I think you put the Money in the Bank on last.
I think you want that earlier because you want the tease of the winner cashing in later in that night. And that may be why the title match ultimately does go on last, which it probably should. So there you go. That is going to wrap up this edition of Review of Raw.
Oh, yeah. Secret word. I probably should have said it at some point. The secret word for tonight is bingo.
Okay. So to get the second of 2 secret words, you will have to listen to Review Away on Wednesday. You can download the show, and we will be reviewing the Eric Bischoff DVD, Sports Entertainment's Most Controversial Figure. And if you tune into that show, you hear the secret word, you've just got to send a message to Wei Ting on the Law message board with the 2 secret words.
lawradio.proboards.com.
Yes.
Is where you sign up.
Is it too confusing? Is this too
It's a little confusing.
TNA 2006?
It's a little confusing, but our actual fans will get it fine.
Okay, so that's coming up on Review Away this Wednesday. Also, we've got The Law from Sunday night that's available for download with a review of Slammiversary, as well as Dave Meltzer on the show, and a bonus show. Back for one night only, Brian Mann and Nate Milton also chatting Slammiversary. They couldn't let a TNA pay-per-view go by without chiming in for a nostalgic trip for those two. So that's going to wrap up the show. You can go to liveaudiowrestling.com. We are here each and every Tuesday. Tune in at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can download the full edition of Review Away up at liveaudiowrestling.com. For Wei Ting, I'm John Pollock, and thanks for watching Review of Raw.